tell us about your first episode in Stargate, the Gamekeeper. Tell us
Hmm.
about getting that role.
Yeah, that was cool. I didn't know much about Stargate, and I showed up and the cool thing was I had met Michael Shanks
Mm.
about 5 years earlier when I did a pass through Vancouver to check it out. I was there for like a month and way back. I don't know the date, but X-Files was the only thing that was going
Hmm.
on. It was very quiet. So I left. But where I was staying, the friend of a friend was saying, "Hey, let's go see this friend of mine's doing his final production at University of British Columbia." And Michael was doing this Shakespeare piece. And I'm embarrassed. I don't remember the exact play, but I remember him. I mean, he was just like, boom, you know. So then when I got on set, we talked about that because he remembered me because he knew I'd understudied Malkovich and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So we got to talk about that. But the getting on the set that day was very cool. We had like sort of the hippies kind of vibe going, and
Hmm.
the actress came in from Toronto, Lisa Bunting, and the director Bill Corcoran was also very good. And the scene we had repeated over and over and over again, and they just enjoyed what we were doing. So it was a cool family. So speaking of family, when I went to the craft services table, which is where you can get snacks and coffee, I was going for a coffee, and it was in another room. But when you opened the door, it was another studio, and it was huge, and it was full of props. And it was like, I mean, the set pieces, there was a Stargate, there was a this, there was like spaceships. I mean, it was really wild. And I saw these things. So I went to Michael Greenberg, producer,
Yeah.
writer, and I said, Michael, I'm directing a play right now, and it takes place in New York City. And if I could get four of those, they were like 30-foot columns with cross steel with bolts. They were actually made of wood, but they look like those subway platform
Okay.
struts. And I said, if I could have four of those and I'll pay you whatever you need. He said, give me 20 minutes. And he comes back, he says, you can use them. We have others stored in another building. You can grab those. You don't need to pay us. Just bring them
Wow.
back in the
Just bring it
condition
back.
that you found them. I mean, who does that?
Yeah.
It's, the Stargate, those productions are big, big, big pieces of machinery, and they don't have time for this stupidity. And it made the show. Matter of fact, when we were taking them down at the end, some family members and friends were sitting in the audience watching us tear the set down, and we started leaning those over, and they're like, oh, "We thought those were holding up the ceiling,"
Right.
But but the Stargate people were ultra cool. During a break, oh no, that was Stargate. Let me stay on Gamekeeper. But it was, I didn't really have time to read the whole script, so I didn't quite know what we were doing. But
You're in one section of a larger story. Yeah.
yes, yes, it was great. I mean, it was a rush.
Wow. That's it was one of my favorite episodes back in the day because um, we got to Dwight Schultz is in that episode as well. Brilliant actor.
Yes,
We also have Kowalski back in one of the other shards of that whole presentation. But with this one, we actually got to see how Daniel lost his folks. And that was really out of left field. And the fact that we experience it again and again, and it's
yeah.
just like, this sucks. And at the same time, this is the first time I'm watching this. It's like the gamekeeper is testing him. He's like, if you keep on tweaking this, what would happen if you manage to get them out of it? And Daniel
Mm,
at one point tries,
mm.
and it realizes, at this point, one way or another, he can't change the past. What's happened has happened, and he just starts letting it happen again and again. What was that like rewatching that episode? You told me you went and
Yeah,
saw that
and
again.
yeah, thank you for making that suggestion. I really loved it because what was, when you first watch an episode that you're in, all you watch is yourself. And then in watching it, I really that's what makes Stargate so great is the storytelling, the layers of storytelling. There's so much to say about that, right? Letting go of the past, reliving the past, not letting it go, having it go through your mind, go through your mind, go through your mind. So there's a greater level of what they're talking about there. And then, we'll get to that other episode where there's always a human story under all of these sci-fi levels. and that's what makes the show great. It's mythology. Mythology is
Mhm.
taken from, ancient times. So they did a great job with that. And I watched one of your writers just the other day. Sorry, Jonathan. Um, he was brilliant, and he obviously has a great resource in terms of mythology and storytelling.
there's there's a lot of depth there, and it always, I always go back to this episode in terms of a great character piece for Daniel and for Jack, because we see parts of their lives that really could have been, and it establishes Daniel's parents as archaeologists.
Mhm.
And we later find out his mother's father was into that field as well. So it really lends credence to what he did in his career. He really wasn't going to be able to. He really wasn't interested in doing anything else, despite the fact that, as tragic as it was, this is something that really ended his parents' careers and their lives and his, chance to be raised by them. This is still what he wanted to do. So,
Yes, and as an actor, Daniel got to stretch because he was working on that.
yeah,
It's not an easy emotion of, your parents passing away, so or anybody
no,
passing
exactly.
away.
Then Seth, the next year. This
Yeah.
was quite a switch for you, going from a parent of an SG team member to a Goa'uld. Bill Corcoran directed this one, and then I believe. Who wrote this episode? This was Jonathan Glassner's episode, one of the
Yes.
creators of the series. Tell
Hmm.
us about Seth. Hail Dorothy.
Oh man, yeah. No, that was a trip. I didn't know I was cast for quite a while, and they were taking a long time. And then finally, what happens is you get a call from the wardrobe department before your agent even knows. It happens a lot because the wardrobe's right on top of it. Once they get the flag, they call you. And then I called my agent and said, "Hey, by the way," she goes, "Oh, those wardrobe people," and they were super cool. They noticed I had a pierced ear, so they gave me an earring, and that was nice. It's probably the last time I wore one. And and that leather jacket was made of, I don't know if they
Oh,
do it the same way nowadays, but it was made of a number of different leathers. And but then getting on the set, it was a location shoot. So location shoots can be a little more tense because the crew has a lot more physical work to do. They have to get up earlier to get there with their equipment, unload the equipment, get it. So there's a lot of so what I learned to do on sets is I'm pretty quiet until I'm spoken to. I'm just there because there's a lot of hubbub going on, and you never know, what's happening, and they need to communicate with each other. But it was
right.
it was just the most professional, smart production, and everybody was super friendly. I had my little bevy of mostly females down at my feet,
Right.
and one of them said to me, she said, and it was during they were resetting the camera or something. And I'm sitting there, and she goes, "Do you know what she does?" And I'm like, "No." She goes, "She's a Mountie." I'm like, "Oh." She goes, "Yeah, she looks like she's 12, right?" And I'm like, "Well, that's cool." And I didn't bother going into my experience, but everybody was just really chill.
Wow.
And uh, during a break, I went outside, and I actually, I thought it was sunny because we had the lights blasting in the windows.
Into the windows.
Yeah, and it was drizzly and stuff, but still, I just want to get some air. And the DP, the director of photography, was out there, and he said, "Wow, you play a great bad guy." And I said, "Yeah." I started apologizing. I was like, I know I do so many. He goes, "Don't say that." He goes, "Donald Sutherland did a lot, and then he tried to stay away from it, and he didn't work for a number of years, and then he went back to that, which led him into some of the more realistic roles that he wanted to do."
Right,
And
that's
yeah,
funny.
it's like you go with what you got, so it's all cool. But on that set, it was you know it moved pretty quickly. Everybody knew what they were doing, and we just rock and rolled and went along. I was on that shoot for 5 days, and the first shoot, Gamekeeper, was one day. So the 5 day run was very, very cool. And Mr. Anderson was very friendly. I talked more with Michael and Amanda because we had a break, and we went to this break room for a while. And then I could, we reflected back on when we reflected back about his play, and
Right.
Amanda was very, very friendly. And Mr. Anderson has a lot to do. He's also executive producer, so he's running around making decisions and stuff. And I mean, that's an incredible workload. And then he keeps that wonderful smarmy acting going on the side. I mean, I ran into him once when I was jogging around Stanley Park, which is a 6-mile run. And again, it was a drizzly Sunday morning, and I'm coming along. Who's that? And as we pass each other, we're like, I look familiar, but we just kept going, Because I know for him that has to happen all the time, and I just, I'm sure he's just enjoying a break for a change, so I didn't want to bug him.
Well, yeah, Vancouver used to be such a small town, especially in the earlier days of Stargate SG-1, and now it's just absolutely exploded.
Yes.
So
yes.
It's just become an industry town, and Stargate is one of those pillars that really brought it up with the professionalism that they had, with the money that they had into production, going into 17 seasons of this thing. It had to have just been a wild ride to just be a part of it, just to sit back and watch it take place, and then to do your thing.
And you realize it more later, at the time it's like, oh, I got a job, this is great.
Right.
And then as it goes, you go, wow, this thing, and what was I, season 2, 3?
Both 2 and 3. That's
yeah,
right.
So
yeah, and we are talking about it 22 years later.
Yeah.
And you haven't aged a day. I think you've got a sarcophagus somewhere.
Well, there's the other story I didn't tell you yet. When I went for
that?
When I went for that coffee, I saw the Stargate.
Yeah.
I just got back, dude.
Thanks for watching this clip from Dial the Gate. If you enjoyed the video, give us a thumbs up. It's our goal to share a new Stargate story every day while we're on break. Please feel free to subscribe to future episodes here on YouTube. And if you have Stargate friends who might like this clip, let them know about us. Be sure to visit dialthegate.com to view the complete archive, as well as transcripts from past interviews. I'll see you on the other side.